Welcome, welcome. We're filling up the room. We've got about 2 minutes left. As you arrive, please check in with us in the chat. We've got Robin from Georgia, Holly from Tampa Bay, Florida, Danita from Ohio. I'm here from Utah. I checked in too. Natasha visiting from South Africa, Sally from Texas, Jeff from Utah, Scott from Utah. Hey, we got some Utah representation here today. Welcome, everybody. We are going to get started in just a minute or two. It's about time. So I am so glad that you're here. Have something ready to take notes. I'm going to stay hydrated. I would invite you to do the same. And just a little announcement here before we actually start the recording and get started. I have here in the back office, Jeff and Natasha, who are ready to respond. They'll be watching the chat. Once I get started, I don't watch it quite so much. Tara just checked in from Ottawa, Canada. Welcome, welcome. So you can interact there in the chat. Also, the Q&A is open. I will be leaving some time toward the end, as long as there's some time left, for your questions. So the Q&A is also available. It's right there on your Zoom bar. And if you have some specific questions that come up for you, put them in there. Okay, and as long as there's some time left at the end, I'm going to take on whatever questions I can. Okay, we are at the top of the hour, so we're going to get started. Are you ready? I'm going to push the record button and then we're off to the races. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is, are you feeling called to help others? Here are 5 steps to get started. I'm Dr. Paul Jenkins. I'm so happy to spend this time with you, and let's set a few expectations as we get started. Is that all right? You'll want to know what to expect. So as I go back to my slides, here we go. Why are you here? First of all, let's just check in with that, shall we? And I've had several of you respond in the email invitations that went out for this webinar today about why you are here. And there are some common themes emerging. You feel called. Now, I put that right in the title of the webinar because I'm finding that a lot of people, myself included, feel a higher purpose. You know, that we've got some reason that we're here on the planet, and it's maybe a little higher or more important than whatever we are doing currently. Do you feel that? If you do, you're not alone. There are a lot of people who are feeling that, and it usually has to do with elevating the situation of our planet, with blessing and enriching the lives of other people. And there are a lot of ways to do that. We're going to talk about some of those ways, but also the strategies to get there today. I'm also hearing a little theme of, well, what's possible here? And oftentimes we miss the boat. You know, I was listening to a song in the car. My wife and I were driving back from the airport, I think. And we were listening to a call that said, you're not late to the party. You were just at the wrong party. It's a song by Andy Grammer. And I got a kick out of that because sometimes we feel like we've missed the bus, or our ship has sailed, or we're at the wrong party. And it's really great news to find out that there are some possibilities that maybe you hadn't considered. And then there's another very common theme as people responded to my email invitations and said, you know what, I just really need more positivity and hope and perspective in my own life, especially when we're surrounded in this world by so many challenging or difficult or negative elements. So I'm listening. And what we're going to cover today is going to address some of that. For those of you who are new to me, I am Dr. Paul Jenkins. I am the positivity psychologist. And for the last 3 decades, I've helped thousands of people to achieve more peace and hope in their lives, in their key relationships. And we do this based on solid science-based principles of positive psychology. So this is getting way beyond the just think positive that you hear from some of the motivational speakers out there into the actual science of positivity. And I am thrilled to be spending this time with you. A lot of my time now is spent certifying and training and supporting positivity practitioners. I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. I can't make you a psychologist. You have to go to graduate school, get a PhD and a license in your jurisdiction to be a psychologist. But the principles of positivity can be applied and practiced in so many ways. And there may be some of those that you weren't even aware of. We're going to open up some possibilities for that today. So here's the promise for today's mini class. I will share with you in a brief format. Okay, we're not going to get into all of the training around this because I reserve that for the deep dive trainings that we do in our certification. But I will give you the model, the operating instructions for your mind. We're going to hit that today in the context of what we're doing here. I will share 5 specific steps that you can take right now. You can get started. You don't have to wait. You know, one of my friends that I've known for a number of years now reached out to me not too long ago, and she said, you know, I've decided I'm going to go back to graduate school. And I said, tell me more. What is your plan? Because, I mean, college was way back for her, a couple of decades. And she said, well, it's time for me to become a psychologist. And then she realized, wait a minute, I don't have to become a psychologist. I already know a psychologist who can help me to implement some of these principles. And she's become one of our certified positivity practitioners instead. There are some specific steps you can take. I'll share 5 of those, okay? And then I've got a special offer for you. Now, you know when you come to a free webinar that there's going to be some kind of a pitch. And I am not here to sell you on anything. In fact, I don't want you to join our program if it's not a good fit for you. But on the other hand, if you discover that it is a good fit, then I want to help remove any of the barriers that would stand between you and your accomplishing this calling that you have. And I have a special offer for you today just for being here in the class. By the way, some of you are watching on YouTube as we are live streaming this webinar to my YouTube channel. I debated this morning whether I was even going to do that, but for those of you who are on YouTube, we love you and you missed the registration deadline. So I'm going to go ahead and offer this to you as well, the same special offer. Just understand that that is time limited. So if you're catching the YouTube recording later on, then, well, there's other possibilities for you. But the special offer is just for you folks who are here live with me today. And with whatever time we have left, I'm going to answer your questions. Okay? So let's jump in, shall we? Let's start with step number 1. Turn your brain on. Now, your brain is always on. In fact, while you're sleeping, your brain is on. Your brain is always active. This is the main control center for everything that happens. And your brain has 2 primary jobs: to keep you safe and to prove you right. Both of those get us into trouble all the time. Because to keep us safe, our brain engages in certain activities. I'm going to go right back to my slides here in just a minute to share that model with you. And it's not that your brain is doing anything wrong. It's doing exactly what your brain is designed to do. But when you launch out to do something new, something unprecedented, something that you have not personally done before, there are alarms that go off in your brain because that part of your brain that's there to keep you safe is telling you this isn't safe, simply because you don't have any experience with it. And it doesn't mean you're not safe. It means your brain's doing what it's been designed to do. But part of our objective here today in this mini class is to get your brain working for you, not against you. Now, what you do with it after that is totally up to you. So let's go back to the model here and wrap our heads around. See what I did there? Let's wrap our heads around what our head is doing, shall we? When I say turn your brain on, let's look at a psychological concept called metacognition. Now, this is a fancy psychobabble word. If you don't know what it means, don't worry about that. We made it up. Okay, we make up words in psychology. It makes us feel smart. And this is one of the things, all right? Metacognition, if you break it down, cognition simply means thinking. Metacognition is a higher level. It's thinking about thinking. Now, be careful with this. You can hurt yourself. But I invite you to notice that you can do this. I love that my job involves illuminating the obvious. I mean, this is cool, folks. I get paid to tell people things they already know or to show them things they already see. But there are obvious things that are completely unnoticed until it's called to your attention. You know, like the feeling of your shoes, for example. And now as I mention it, it's like, oh, yeah, I can feel my shoes. Well, could you feel them just before I said something? Technically, your neurology is working, but you don't notice it. Obvious but unnoticed. That's where many of the processes are in our own mind. So when I say turn your brain on, what I'm really saying is engage in metacognition. I'm inviting you to notice certain things that are going on in your brain, processes that are obvious but unnoticed. And you'll see them as soon as I call them to your attention, kind of like your shoes. All right? Let's take a look. It is what it is. Now, this can be really annoying depending on who's saying it and why. But all it means for today is the way things are right now. It's where you are, it's what you do, it's who you're with, it's what you have. It's the way things are without changing anything. It is what it is. What is your brain doing with your what it is? Well, what it's doing is evaluation. Now, this is a nice word for being really judgy. All right, so I invite you to notice for a minute that you are constantly judging, aren't you? Yeah, you are. You judge yourself pretty harshly sometimes. You judge your family, your spouse, your kids. You judge your coworkers. You judge the weather, the government, the economy. You're judging me. It's cool. I'm judging you. So we're even, right? Just notice that you're doing it. Now, evaluation is a nicer word, okay? But basically what your brain is doing is trying to fulfill that number one job to keep you safe. Because to keep you safe, your brain has to look at your circumstances and make judgments. Is this safe? Is this good? Is this bad? Is this big? Is this small? I don't know. You judge it. All right, here's an evaluation question. Let me just throw this out there and see how you do with this. I don't know if you've met me personally. I know some of you probably have. Am I a tall man? No, it would probably really help if I showed you a picture of me. Okay, does this help? I'm the one on the right. Okay, now would it also help if I told you how tall I am? I am 6'2". Okay, now there's a lot of things that might seem strange about this picture at this point. My buddy Mark, 7'4". This is Mark Eaton. The late great Mark Eaton. He used to play center for the Utah Jazz, and we lost Mark a couple of years ago, but he was a member of our National Speakers Association chapter. And what a giant of a man. Okay, so am I a tall man or not? What I invite you to notice is that your answer to that question depends on who you compare me to or what you compare me to. An evaluation implies comparison with some standard. So let's go back to our model. It is what it is. I want you to think for just a minute about your own what it is. All right? Because you've got a circumstance, don't you? Right now in your life, think of that one. I mean, another example is diagnosis. About a year ago, my son called me and said, "Dad, I have cancer." Okay, that's a what it is. What's yours? Is it a diagnosis? Is it a divorce? Is it a bankruptcy? I had that one too. Is it an accident? Is it that you won the lottery? Is it that you got a promotion? Is it that you got fired? Whatever it is, your brain is judging it. Now, when we take what it is, whatever it is, and we compare it in our evaluation to something better, how do we feel? Notice this. When we judge our circumstances compared to something better, we feel worse about our circumstances. True? And here's one of the assertions. We probably ought to clear this right up front. It could always be better, right? No matter how good your circumstances are, it could always be better. Yeah. All right. Well, is that true the other direction? What if we take what it is and we compare it to something worse? Because it could always be worse too. When we compare what we've got to something worse, we feel better about what we've got. Now, this is most obvious if I give you a little option here. What if I were to make you an offer right now? Look, whatever your circumstance is, whether it's the diagnosis or the condition or the whatever it is, okay? You can keep that. Here's your offer. You can keep that, or I'll arrange to get you something worse. Who's down for that? Who wants something worse than what they've already got? Nobody. Notice that. Now, this is interesting because what it reveals to us about how our mind works is that you can always imagine something worse. Right? No matter how bad it seems. What about that cancer that I mentioned? Yeah, that was a year ago. We are now going through a round of scans to verify that that cancer is in remission. Huh, well, that's good, right? I thought, and I'm a ninja here, okay? I am a black belt in positivity. I practice it 24/7. I mean, it's what I do. I'm the positivity psychologist. And when I got that call from my son, I heard my brain doing this. Oh, okay. I mean, you take a moment to absorb whatever it is, right? But then I heard my brain doing this. At least it wasn't my daughter-in-law calling me, telling me that my son had been killed in a collision out on the freeway. Because given the two, I'll take this. Right? You can do this too. But we become so accustomed to thinking about things the way we already think about them. You know, on my podcast, Live on Purpose Radio, I interviewed Dr. Richard Nisbett. This is a couple of years ago. He's a brilliant scientist who studies cognition and reason. His book is called Thinking, and it was endorsed by Malcolm Gladwell, of all people. Anyway, I'm talking to Dr. Nisbett, and he says, you know, the number one error that we make as humans is that we believe what we think. That is profound and true, according to my experience as a professional psychologist. We believe what we think, and we get used to thinking about things the way that we do. And it doesn't mean that we're right. It just means that we believe it. Okay. So here's half of the model. I've given you half of it. I'll give you the other half here in just a minute. What it is neutral. Okay, your circumstances, where you are. And I want to put this in the context of what you've been thinking about your calling, about your purpose, and your desire to fulfill that purpose. Okay, you are exactly where you are right now in the fulfillment of that. And you may be used to telling yourself, oh, I'm so far behind. I've missed the boat. I'm at the wrong party. Well, notice that you're comparing it to some imagined standard of you being somewhere else right now. You're in this webinar. That tells me a lot about you. Because what if you were just ignoring this and you didn't even show up? Now, how are you feeling about how you're doing? Right? You're taking some active steps, and I'm going to give you all 5 specific steps today. So just notice that you're already judging where you are. My assertion is that you are where you are, and it could always be better. It could always be worse. Congratulate yourself a little bit for getting to where you are. Everything that you did yesterday is what allowed you to get here today. Okay, and whatever yesterday means for you. I mean, you might be looking at an experience that you had in the last 5 years and thinking, oh, that's not how it should have been. Really? I mentioned my podcast. I've been podcasting since 2007, which is before podcasting was even a thing. And I have interviewed some amazing people. I've got over 600 now interviews that I have done at Live on Purpose Radio, authors, speakers, inspiring thought leaders. And here's what I've found. Every single inspiring story has a hard part. Do you notice that too? Every inspiring story has a hard part. If there's no hard part in it, it doesn't have the right to inspire me. I think we get to take a look at how we're judging our circumstances, because that creates the energy that we're going to use to move forward to the next part. Okay, so let's get to that. I get excited about this, you guys. All right. So let's go to step number 2. Find your why. And I'm going to complete the model for you as we get to step 3. Okay, but here's the second step. Once you turn your brain on, you've got your metacognition going. Oh, and by the way, I'm not here to tell you how to think. I do not have that kind of authority. I want you to see that you are thinking and that makes a difference. Now let's go to this second step. Find your why. What is the most disturbing thing that you have ever seen? Now, I'm sitting in the audience as that question is posed to Dr. Sanjay Gupta. This brilliant neurosurgeon and correspondent for CNN had his boots on the ground that morning in Puerto Rico after a devastating hurricane came through. This was in October of 2017. And now he's on stage in a Bravenel Hall in Salt Lake City responding to this question. And he didn't even hesitate. It's the unnecessary death. And then he went on to clarify, people are going to die in a hurricane. We acknowledge that. We get it. It's part of the deal. But what's disturbing is everyone who's dying after the fact, because they don't have access to food, water, medical supplies, the resources that they need to survive. And the most disturbing part of this is that all of those resources exist sitting in containers, on ships, in the port, on the island. But there's no distribution process to get it out to the people who so desperately need it. It was that night that I made an important decision that changed the course of my career. And for those of you who are watching right now on the live stream on YouTube, the only reason that channel exists is because of the decision I made that night. We now have a little over 430,000 subscribers on that channel. Live on Purpose TV, over 1,000 videos, well over 1,000 now. That's a lot of distribution. In my previous practice, I had a traditional psychotherapy practice years ago, in the first half of my career. And on a good day, I could probably see 7, 8 clients, make a difference for them. Limited distribution. The principles that we're talking about save lives. And they save and enrich key relationships. To put the distribution into place is my why. It's why I do what I do. And I'm even finding now that I can reach people, okay? And I do intentionally, as much as I can. I want to get the message out about positivity and hope and saving and enriching our 7 key relationships. I'm also finding that certifying positivity practitioners is even more powerful, because you know people and you have a message. What if I could empower you to get your distribution channels in place to reach the people who so desperately need it? What is sitting in your container, on your ship, on your island? And that's my why. I invite you to ask yourself, what is my why? Why do I feel compelled to pursue my calling, my higher purpose on this planet? That's the second strategy. Get clear about your why. And sometimes that takes a little work. It might take a little coaching. I believe that coaches need coaches. And I hire the best coaches to work with me because I have a responsibility to all of you. And you have a responsibility to the people that you can serve too. I hope this is opening up some possibilities for you as you listen in. Let's go to number 3. Check your attitude. Attitude is often thought of as a psychological term. Some people don't even realize that it's an aviation term. Did you know this? My son is a pilot. One of my sons. I got 3 sons and a daughter. And one of my sons is a pilot. And he explained to me that if you're ever in trouble, check your attitude first. And I'm thinking, altitude? No, attitude. Attitude in aviation is the plane's position relative to the ground or the horizon. So you can see that a nose down attitude is heading you right into the hard stuff. A nose up attitude can give you altitude, but it's position. When we think of attitude as position, check your attitude. Now, I've already given you one way to look at your attitude, and it has to do with your brain's evaluation of what's going on for you right now. One of my coaches said something so powerful to me as I had hired her to help me with some of my business models and how I can get the distribution channels in place more effectively to reach more people. And I was telling her about what was going on in my business. And I'm outlining, the revenues and the sales and all that stuff, right? And I got through my whole story, and she said this. It was so simple. She said this. Well, that's a thought. And I'm like, no, you're not listening to me. I'm trying to show you what's going on. And she's like, that's a thought. This was Jody Moore, brilliant coach, who I'm so grateful that I hired because she turned something on inside my brain. She helped me to see that my story about what's going on is a thought. What's going on is the circumstance, and circumstances are always neutral. Now, without getting into all the details about that, I was evaluating my business in a somewhat negative way, and it was giving me negative energy. That evaluation was my attitude, my position. Because how is my business actually doing? Well, it is what it is, right? It could always be better. It could always be worse. What am I choosing to compare it to? That's my attitude. That's my position. Now it gets even more exciting because we're not done yet. Let's go back to the model. As I pull the model back up, take a look at this. This is something that your brain is always doing as well. And you can't turn it off any more than you can turn off your evaluation or gravity for that matter. You ever get up in the morning and think, oh, I wonder if gravity's on today? Tends to be. And this is how principles are. Creation has to happen. You have to create something. The question is, what are you going to create? And what is to be doesn't exist yet. We haven't created it yet. So first we have to create it mentally, psychologically, spiritually. That has to happen first before the physical creation of the thing happens. I do full day trainings on the creation model. And we get into this in the certification as well. We do deep dives on all of these things in our certification process. But let's just take a look at the feelings. Can we look at the feelings? What's coming tomorrow? You don't know. How are you doing next week? You don't know. Now, you've got something to do with it, but you don't know. So all you can do is imagine. Imagine. It's that same imagination we use to judge, to come up with standards to judge ourselves. But in the creation mode, we're predicting or anticipating or expecting what is to be, and we don't know. What happens when we anticipate or expect that what's coming is even worse than what we've already got? Yeah. This is anxiety. Remember, folks, I am a professional psychologist. This is the definition of anxiety. It's when our mind imagines or predicts or expects worse things to come. And notice that you don't know. Therefore, what you're expecting is an attitude or position. What happens if we imagine or predict or expect that what's coming is even better than what we've already got? How do we feel? Woohoo! This is excitement. This is anticipation. This is hope. I just shared with you how we can choose hope. Since we don't know what's coming, We take a position about that. That position is our attitude. So I invite you to notice that. And since we don't know, what if we were to choose something that serves us better? All right, let's go to the next one. We're up to 4 already. We're cruising. Take bold action. I would add to this and put this in your notes if you're taking notes, not just bold action, courageous action. Now, let me define courageous, or at least point something out to you that you already know. Courage implies fear, right? Because without fear, it's not courage. No courage is required for something that there's no fear around. There's a book by Dr. Susan Jeffers that I read years ago, and I love the title. Feel the fear and do it anyway. Okay, now remember, your brain's main jobs are to keep you safe and to prove you right. And something new or unprecedented for you is going to look like a threat to your brain. So your brain is going to try to kick in and keep you safe. Now, this is part of what I mean about your brain. Let's get your brain to work for you, not against you. Do you notice that there's a lot of times when your brain shuts you down? Oh, don't do that. Oh, these terrible things are going to happen. Oh, what if, what if, what if? Yeah, your brain's just doing its job. There you go, being human again. Now, do we have to stay in a victim position and just let our brains stop us from doing all these things that aren't actually dangerous? They're just unprecedented. Your success lies just outside of your comfort zone. Everything that you want that you don't currently have is outside of your comfort zone. Meaning, when you take steps, bold, courageous steps forward, your brain is going to set off some alarms. It doesn't mean you should stop. It might mean that you're stretching your comfort zone. And you can even check your own history around this, because there were things that used to be hard for you that aren't anymore, right? Notice that. And your brain's job is to prove you right, too. So once you choose an attitude, your brain is going to try to hang on to that attitude. Oh, I could never do that, is an example. Really? You don't know that. You're choosing that attitude, position. What if we chose an attitude that serves you better? All right, so we're going to take bold, courageous action. You'll know that you're on track if you feel some fear. All right, do you want to fire me now? I'm not going to lie to you guys. All right, I want you to know what your brain is doing so that we can get your brain to work for you and not against you. At the end of the day, it's not even about you. I mean, think about this for a minute. It's not about you. Your calling, not about you. It is you, okay? It requires you, but it's about the people who are dying inland because there's no distribution to get the resources out to them. It's about them. What happens to them if you don't show up and fulfill your calling? And I'm not doing this to, create guilt or pressure. But you know what? I truly believe that this is how we save the world. What else are you going to have confidence in? The government? Ooh, yeah. No. Who's going to do this? If not you, then who? If not now, then when? I invite you to own that. Own it. That leads us to our last step. So let's go look at that one. Oh, before we do that, I want to give you an example. I'll use my little dog to introduce you to this. This is Mozzie. Little, at the time the picture was taken, a little 10-year-old Yorkie poo. And I know what you're thinking. Do not say he's cute. Don't go there, okay? Because he's not. Let me tell you why. Echo Helsinki Oxfords. I bought these shoes for $117. This is not a very clear picture, but I think it's enough for you to get the idea. Mozzie decides to have a little snack while I'm gone one day, and I come home and find this remnant of my new Helsinki Oxfords. Okay, $117 shoes. Now, we've been talking about attitude, position, right? So what's my brain doing? It's evaluating. This is bad. Is it? No, this is neutral. Now, this is one of the things that's the hardest for me to sell when I'm coaching people. Your circumstances are neutral. But when your dog just chewed up your $117 shoes, it doesn't feel neutral. When you get the call, it doesn't feel neutral. When you get that text, when you feel that pain, it doesn't seem neutral. And I'm saying it's neutral. You're going to take an attitude or a position on this. And I did, I felt angry. I was upset. I got a little tipped over, and then my positivity ninja skills kicked in, and I thought, well, this is neutral. What's good about this? Okay. And then I took some bold action in creation mode. I want to show you another picture. This is the same shoe after I personally repaired it. That's something that a lot of people don't know about Dr. Paul. I used to do a bit of leather work just as a hobby, especially when I was a teenager and young adult. And I still have my leatherwork supplies downstairs. This tragedy became an opportunity for me to take bold action and create a very satisfying result. To me, it was really satisfying. Is that cool? Is that kind of awesome? Well, then, okay, we're not done yet because Mozzie's still hungry, right? My neighbor came over and he wanted 3 of my book, Pathological Positivity, as Christmas gifts for his kids. This is so funny because some of my neighbors, they're like, what? You've written a book? Because I'm just their neighbor, right? And they're, you've written a book? And he got my book, he read it, and he thought, this is actually good. Like he's surprised. I don't know, but he came over to my house and he gave me 3 $20 bills, crisp new $20 bills, in exchange for 3 of these books so that he could go give them to his kids for a Christmas present or something, right? I was on my way out the door, so I took the money, I put it on my nightstand, and ran off to do my errand. When I came home, I couldn't remember where I put the money. It wasn't on the nightstand. It wasn't on the desk. Wait a minute. It was on the nightstand. I go back into the bedroom and I find this. This is all that's left. And I got the dogs in front of me and I said, who did this? And Piper's just like, oh. And Mozzie's like, you know that look they give when they know they're busted? And he had this guilt face and he was curling up over in the corner. I knew it was him. And then I got the proof the next day out on the back lawn. Now, why did I share this story with you? Taking bold action sometimes means that we get to take whatever our circumstances are and we engage our creative mind to go create from this something useful. Well, what can you do with $60 that your dog consumed I'm not going to go try to clean off the fragments after I found them in the backyard. But did you enjoy the story? And I've used that story with many audiences. I'm a keynote speaker. I speak at conferences and for corporations, and that story has come in handy many times. What is that story worth to me? For a client who's paying me thousands of dollars to come in and train their people, to have a story, $60 is a great deal. Now that's a position, that's an attitude. So let's go back to the model and just kind of round this out. And then I'm going to get to another part of what I promised to do here today. Energy, put this in your notes. Energy precedes outcome. Energy precedes outcome. The energy that we take to the creation mode comes from the evaluation mode. What have you got? Okay, what are your circumstances and how are you judging them? Usually we're not in a neutral position. We're assuming an attitude that's either positive or negative about our circumstances. What about my dog eating $60? How could that be positive? And now that I've shared the whole story with you, you can see that for me as a professional speaker, that is priceless. That is priceless. The shoe. I got to renew some skills and feel some satisfaction in the act of creating. The messes in your life can become your message. And while we're on this slide, okay, I said energy precedes outcome. What about those days when someone's thinking, oh, I hate my life. Nothing's going right. I'm off track. Okay, negative evaluation, and then they come home and yell at their spouse and kick their dog. They're making it worse in creation mode. Starting from that negative place generates negative results. And you don't have to look very far in politics or watch the news to see that this plays out on a large scale. Just 2 weeks ago, I visited Auschwitz. Some of you will recognize that name as one of the main concentration camps where the Nazis processed thousands, just under 1 million people came through there. Most of them were killed. And that kind of negative creation has to come from the negative energy of evaluation. Without getting into all that, let's look at the opposite. What happens when we get good with where we are? What happens when we achieve peace and gratitude in our current circumstances, regardless of what they are? That creates the positive energy that allows us to go upgrade whatever it is. And I use those 2 silly examples with my dog just to bring that to your attention. But what does that represent for you? What is your $60 that got ate by your dog? What is your Helsinki Oxford that got chewed up? And what can you do with the creation materials that this has brought into your life? Here's the whole model. When people come in and become certified positivity practitioners, they also receive license to use this model in their work. This becomes one of your tools to move forward, not only for your own personal use, but to use with the people that you serve. So the last step, let's talk about this one, building in accountability. Have you had the experience where you promise yourself you're going to do something and then you just go do whatever you've been doing all along? Yeah, we all have. Do you know how long most New Year's resolutions last? March is optimistic for most, okay? By February, a lot of those have been abandoned. Why? we're not typically very good at building in accountability. One of my coaches shared this with me recently. Information is free. This is true, isn't it? Information is free. You go to YouTube. Some of you are watching as we're live streaming on YouTube. You can get anything. You put in any question, you'll find abundant information. It's free. Containers are rare. Containers are rare. I just came back from an experience where I got to spend a week with one of my coaches, and the amazing container that she has created for us to thrive. She calls it the Superstar Activator. And when I get into that container, I feel like a superstar. And the information's free. I can get that anywhere. But the relationships, the container, the way that it comes together, build in accountability. And what that usually means is put your promise to yourself in a container that allows you to have confidence that you will fulfill it. I'll say that once more. Put your promise that you've made to yourself about your calling into a container that gives you confidence that you will fulfill it. Here's the 5 steps. Okay, turn your brain on. And we've talked about how to operate the equipment of your brain. Find your why. Check your attitude. Remember, attitude is position in both evaluation and creation mode. Take bold and courageous action and build in accountability. I guarantee these steps are not only doable, but will move you very purposefully and immediately toward fulfilling your calling. I'm speaking from personal experience because this is what I did. And it's what hundreds of positivity practitioners that I've trained and certified have chosen to do to move forward and change the world for the better. Does that sound grandiose when I say that? It might. Here's what we put together for you. Imagine for just a minute what it would be like to have a clear path to fulfill your calling so that you know exactly what to do next. Confidence to succeed in doing that because you've got the accountability in place. How would it be to feel that peace and hope in your heart and mind? And to have all the support, tools, encouragement, everything that you need to do it. Having that support, the knowledge, the connections, that's exactly what we have curated for you as the Positivity Practitioner certification. I'm going to jump out of the slides here for just a moment. I'll come back to them because there's a special offer that I want to give you on this. But let me show you what that looks like. I put up a URL, and Natasha, you've got it in the chat here. positivitypractitioner.com/join. positivitypractitioner.com/join. When you go there, I'll just pull it up and show you. Here it is. When you go to positivitypractitioner.com/join, you get to the sales page for the Positivity Practitioner Certification Program. This is a full year of support and masterminding and training and everything that you need to move forward with your calling. Some of the elements people want to know sometimes, okay, well, what does that include? When you register, you get the Positivity Practitioner Certification event And the page will tell you when the next dates are. At the time of this particular recording, it will be August 14th through the 16th. This is a 3-day intensive deep dive training. It's all virtual. So nobody has to get on an airplane, but I do expect you to be fully present, camera on, ready to engage. We keep these classes small because we are working together. We get to know each other. You get to know me. I get to know you. And we work together to achieve these goals. You will have license to use the models that I've developed through my positive psychology practice. Like I said earlier, I can't make you a psychologist, but I can certify you as a positivity practitioner with the proprietary models that I have developed through my practice. There's 4 of them that you get in the certification. You get full access to Live on Purpose Central. And some of you joining our call here today are already members of Live on Purpose Central. You know what the resources are there. We've got courses and books and support and live events, and I'm there every week coaching in our Ask Dr. Paul meetings. You get full access to that. But as a practitioner, we're not going to limit it to that, okay? I'm also giving you additional seats, 5 of them. I give you 5 seats to Live on Purpose Central that you can share with your clients, your family, your coworkers, your team, whoever it is that you choose. That value alone is over $4,000 over the course of your year. We have all kinds of live events and other courses that we're doing one right now, by the way, on positivity skills, practitioner skills. It's a 6-week master class on practitioner skills that we're doing right now. You can attend that live if you're a member. We have slashed the price. The tuition for the certification used to be $4,500. I have dropped that down to $2,997 to make it more accessible. And you can even break that down into 3 monthly payments of $999. When you go to the site, you'll see all of this. I'm just sharing with you what you can see when you click on the link. Okay, positivitypractitioner.com/join. And I'm happy to field any questions that you have about this too. So those of you who are here on Zoom, you can go to the Q&A. You can raise your hand. We're going to have time for some questions here in just a minute. You can also use the chat. But let me wrap this up real quick before we get to that. And that's the therefore what. So you've spent your precious time here with me today. I feel honored by your presence here. And what is next? Just before people say yes to this experience, sometimes they get to ponder why they're here. Okay. And I mentioned this earlier. You're here for a lot of good reasons, not only for you, but for those you love and serve. Because at the end of the day, it's not just about us. It's about the distribution. It's about the people we can serve. And some people think it costs too much. I showed you what the tuition is, $29.97. As you saw what we were including in that, the value of what you're receiving well exceeds $15,000. We have kept the cost to something that is affordable so that your investment can create a return much more quickly. Does it cost too much? What's it costing you now? And I mean not just in money, but in peace or mental wellness. Because I know I've been there when I felt that I'm not fulfilling my calling. It cost me. And what is it costing the people who are waiting for you to put the distribution in place? Because it's not just about us. or that they don't have the time. That's always a lie. We all have 24 hours, 7 days a week. How are we going to spend it? That's the question. And are you ready to get really clear about fulfilling your purpose? Or that they've tried everything and it hasn't worked. I'm not even going to talk about that one because you haven't tried everything. You haven't tried everything. That's kind of silly, I guess. Now, you felt some hope today. What would it be like to get more than that? I am here to support you. And because I see some of my job is to help you get out of your own way, I'm going to throw in a bonus. Now, let me preface this because I don't do personal coaching anymore, except with my inner circle VIP clients. And I only have a handful of those clients. They pay a very reassuringly expensive fee to have access to my calendar, and I work personally with them. But what I'm going to do for anyone who enrolls today, and we've got about 10 seats left, okay? So this is not something that's wide open to everybody. It's not for everybody. But if it is for you, something's moving inside of your heart right now that says, oh, maybe I should do that, or I wish I could do that, or let's find out how you can do that. Okay? Anybody who signs up today will get a 90-minute deep dive personally and privately with me as a bonus. I will create time on my calendar in my schedule to meet personally with you. So that's just for people who sign up today. If you're watching on the recording, or if you're on the live stream on YouTube, it is noon right now, Mountain Time, on Friday. Okay, at midnight, this offer goes away. That's the bonus is only for Friday, July 26th. So if you're joining after that, you'll have to either plead your case, because sometimes I have a soft heart and lighten up on it. But I want to help you get out of your own way and make a decision that will help you to move forward toward fulfilling your calling. It's really good for me when you are phenomenally successful. Okay. I am going to stick around for another 15 minutes to answer some questions. Whatever questions you have, I know we've got a few coming up in the Q&A. I've got a few that I've collected through the email. Okay, let's go there. Kelly is asking, are there payment plans available? Kelly, yes. In fact, this is new for this time around, because prior to this class that we're offering in August, it was a one-time payment, $29.97. We have now broken that down into 3 monthly payments of under $1,000 each. It's just $1 under $1,000, but it's under $1,000. Okay. So if that helps you, Kelly, yes. When you go to the sales page, the order form, you'll see that you can select either the full payment or the 3 payment option. Scott is asking, how often is this offered? The August dates will not work for me. Okay, Scott, the intention is that we will offer this about once a quarter. Now, having said that, I don't have the next one on the calendar. And I'm engaged in my own coaching to the extent that the business plan changes from time to time. So the likelihood is that we'll offer another one in November timeframe. I don't know that for sure, and I can't promise that the price will be the same, because I know that we're underpricing it right now. But I'm doing that intentionally because I want to make it more available to more people. And so hopefully that answers your question, Scott. Let me just address the August dates that won't work. There are always considerations. Now, I don't know what your considerations are. There are always considerations. I remember one training that I was attending where it happened across 4 days. I was so committed to going. But, right? And you see how your brain does this? Well, I'd love to, but. And during that 4-day event was my son's 18th birthday. I had 12 clients already scheduled, paying clients. This was back before I switched over to my current practice, where that's a lot of people to serve in 4 days. I had a keynote that I was delivering, a lunch keynote to 40 business leaders in the community. And I had a subpoenaed appearance in court where I was the key witness in a child custody case that was being heard in the 4th District Court. I can't go. And my coach at the time, I'm so grateful that she helped me to see this. She said, Paul, are you committed? Because there's a difference in being committed or interested. All right. If you're interested, just own it. Say, yeah, I'm interested. If you're committed, you handle the considerations. And I still didn't know exactly what she was saying until she said, if this were your mother's funeral, would you attend? And she got me. It's like, well, of course I would. And she said, you mean none of those things you just listed would keep you from your mom's funeral? That's right. Huh. Okay, so when you're committed, you handle the considerations, right? And those considerations might be in timing, or they might be in the cost, or they might be in the dates, or whatever. And long story short, I handled all 4 of those considerations. And my standard for that is, if I'm not going to do those things I already promised to do, then I am going to arrange to keep those commitments in a way that is higher than or better than what I had already agreed to. And it's kind of an interesting story how I handled getting out of a court subpoena and what I did with my son. I promise you, what we chose to do was better than what we would have done. So you handle the considerations. And I hope you can take that in the spirit that it's meant, Scott. Either we're interested or we're committed. If we're committed, we handle the considerations. And we can kick things down the road forever too. So I would just invite you to check in your heart and see, am I committed to doing this? And if you're committed, I don't know that it ever gets easier. Now, sometimes the considerations are such that you say, you know what, I'm just going to opt out this time. I'm interested, but I'm not committed to this event. I honor that. And you know what, you guys, I am not trying to sell this. I mean, yeah, that was a sales pitch that I just gave because I want to open the doors to those of you who it's right for. I don't want you there if it's not a good fit. If it is a good fit, I want to remove all of the barriers, help you handle the considerations, and get you in the room because I promise that it's going to change the game for you. And I say that with a lot of confidence, having done this so many times. And you can see some of the testimonials there on the order form of people who have come through. So I would invite you to review that. What are the times? June asks. I own a daycare and am currently short-staffed. Yeah, June, those are considerations. That's part of what we're talking about. And if you had to attend, what would you do to cover the daycare? And your brilliant mind is going to come up with something. But to answer your question directly, it will be from 8 o'clock a.m. to 2 o'clock p.m. You're talking about the 3-day event, I'm assuming, because the program is a full year. All right. But the 3-day event that you get starts at 8 a.m. and ends at 2 p.m. Mountain Time. Okay. So if you're in Pacific time, that's 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. If you're in Eastern time, that's 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. And if you're somewhere else on the planet, I remember one of our practitioners, Jade from Australia, it was like 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. or something like that. It's wherever you are in the world, you'll have to do the time conversions, but 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Mountain Time. Hey, June is asking, can I record the event? If you mean the certification 3-day event, We provide access to the archives for you once you're in the Positivity Practitioner portal. This is the place where we hold all of the courses, and all the recordings and the archives are available to you when you've registered. And by the way, once you are a certified positivity practitioner, during that year, and those who continue and renew their membership ongoing have access to future events, tuition free. It's part of the benefit of being a certified positivity practitioner. And some of you may be on the call who are certified positivity practitioners already, and you're thinking, can I come to this one? Yes, you can. As long as we've got seats available, just contact me directly and I'll put you in a seat. Any other questions? Salrab, what's the perks of this certification? Thank you for asking that. Perks are interesting. It's like the benefits, right? What is the benefit of having this certification? If you are a life coach, for example, we attract a lot of coaches into the certification because anybody can hang up their shingle and be a life coach. Some life coaches differentiate themselves from the pack by getting certifications. And this certification is a very unique certification that includes the powerful psychological models that we have developed here at Live on Purpose. And so it allows you to do your coaching based on principles of positive psychology, where a lot of life coaches don't have that. Now, that's just a life coach example. What if you work in an organization that has you training personnel within the company? A certification is always very useful and sometimes can get you an increase in your pay when you do an additional certification. Those are some of the perks that come immediately to my mind. But one of the benefits that we're seeing from a lot of the practitioners is that they get to be part of a community. Sometimes it's kind of a solo operation. Speakers, I work with a lot of speakers and podcasters and coaches and therapists and counselors, and they can feel so isolated sometimes, and this creates a bit of a community for them. As Susan asks, is this full call available for listening to again? The last time I was on the call, my battery ran out. Oh yeah, Susan, yes. If you registered for the event, you will have access through an email that you'll receive probably in the next 24 hours or so. You'll receive an email that has a link to the recording for this event, and you're welcome to review it then. Those of you who are here on YouTube, if you're still listening on YouTube, I will leave it up on the channel for a bit, and so you can go back and review it right on the channel. And those of you who are registered, you can go to YouTube and see the recording of the live event we did today. Okay, we've got Tara next. Sounds like this certification falls nicely within the umbrella along the lines of life coaching. Yes, indeed. In fact, some people have asked, well, should I do this or should I go get training as a life coach? Well, my bias is do this because and they're both valuable. And I found that a lot of people who have been through like Brooke Castillo's life coach school, for example, come to the certification and find that they can take those basic skills that they've learned in the life coach training and enhance it greatly through becoming a certified positivity practitioner. Part of what I'm working on right now too is to include a trauma-informed certificate. And this is really important for coaches, but also for counselors, therapists, and we've had psychologists come through to become certified as a positivity practitioner. But I also want to acknowledge that we have parents who come and get certified. partially so that they can power up their own positivity in establishing that positive family culture that they're trying to create, but also because they want to use these tools to teach their children. And what other important context could you apply it to? You know, when you come into the training, you see that we focus on 7 key relationships. And the principles that you will be certified in and that you will have license to use can be applied across all 7 of your key relationships. And it's only in the last 2 that we talk about business models, because the first 5 are your creator, yourself, your spouse, your children, your extended family. Those are your first 5 key relationships. When we switch to the other hand, it's other people and things. And that's where we work on business models, because as long as you're creating value for these 5, there's no economic exchange. But when you start creating value outside of your own family, that's when we exchange property as the compensation for doing that. And I've told all the life coaches and the practitioners and the counselors and therapists that have come through, if you feel called to do this, then you kind of have to do it, because it keeps nagging at your mind, right? It's like God won't let you forget about what your calling is. And either you do it as a service project, in which case don't quit your day job, or we come up with an economic engine for the mission, for your calling. And we spend quite a bit of time in the certification doing just that. But there are many who are involved who are not interested in, doing a coaching practice or opening some kind of a business. They really want to focus on their family, their kids, their extended family. So wherever it fits for you, the certification is uniquely designed to help us across all 7 of our key relationships. And there are so many things that open up. I mean, I didn't realize how powerful these models were until I started using them to serve more people. I told you before, I learned a lot of these models that I've been referring to. I put together during the course of my 3 decades as a professional psychologist. And the earlier part of my career was committed to one-on-one, hour-to-hour therapy. When I switched over to positive psychology, I fired all of the insurance companies. I don't even work with them. And nobody gets a diagnosis anymore, even if they deserve one. And I started serving tens and 50s and hundreds of people at a time through speaking, but also like through YouTube. When you get 10 to 15,000 views every day on your channel, you're serving a lot of people. And so I've taken these models and honed them down into the most efficient versions that we can, so that you can use these as well. And it's so exciting to see the distribution channels in place. Don is asking, how soon is the first $9.99 due? If you do the payment option, you will pay your first payment when you transact the transaction. Your second payment will come out a month later, and the third payment on the 3rd month. So it's one payment that's due at purchase, and then another payment 30 days later, the next month. Does that answer that one? All right, you guys, I'm going to turn you loose. Thank you for being here. You honor me with your presence. I will look forward to having some of you coming into this positivity practitioner certification. I'm so excited to spend that time with you and to play with you at that level if it's the right thing. And for those of you who it's not a good fit for, I hope you got some benefit from what we've shared here today. Please feel free to share the recording and the YouTube version with people that you think would enjoy it. And go out there and live on purpose.